Hello everyone. So today we are going to cover a topic which is PyMongo. So PyMongo is a library which allows you to interact with MongoDB via Python. So now the question comes, via Python? Because Python is a very powerful language that's used to build very different kind of application, and it's getting very famous, I should say, or getting very useful amongst the developer community. So that is one of the reasons why Python is entering every world, and Python has entered PyMongo also. So PyMongo is a kind of library where it is used to interact with the MongoDB. Now, so what is MongoDB? So MongoDB is a NoSQL database. So what I mean by NoSQL databases, so in the earlier world, we used to have a lot of databases like Oracle or MyAccess or many of those, right? So all those databases are of type structured. By structured, what I mean is, so there are tables in it, and data in tables are stored in the form of rows and columns. So that's what we call structured data, because they have a structure in it, and we used to write SQL queries to work on those data. So by SQL I mean structured query language. So it's a language syntax which we use to write our queries to get the data out of it, to insert the data out of it, or to delete, or there are multiple operations which we can do on the data, on the structured data. So for structured data we need SQL. Now MongoDB is a NoSQL database. That is, we don't need any SQL to write on to perform any operation on the data in MongoDB, because we don't have a structured data in it, MongoDB. So that is one of the reasons that we call it as structureless data, because the data in MongoDB doesn't have any structure in it. So this has got very popular in the recent years. So that is one of the reasons why we are covering here with the Python. So both the languages are in high demand nowadays. So if we talk about SQL and NoSQL, so both has its own strength and weaknesses. So if you talk about, as per your convenience or as per your requirement, whenever there's a need to build a new application, so first you need to analyze that what do you need and which is requirement gets fulfilled with SQL or NoSQL. So both SQL and NoSQL has its own pros and comes with their own choices. So before building an application, you need to make a choice that which is the best fit for your application. So let's shift our attention towards the main focus of this particular learning, the particular journey which we are in, and let's shed some light on the specifics of MongoDB. So MongoDB has collections in it. So what I mean by collection is, so as we used to have tables in the structured database, we have collections here. So within the collections, we have different documents. So what do we mean by document is same as we have rows within structured database. So if we compare both structured and non-structured database, or structured database and MongoDB, what we do is, what we can say is, collection is equals to tables and document is equals to a row. And how we store data in a row is, we call a JSON structure in a document. So it's a JSON type of structure in which the data is stored in document. So considering JSON is another structure which is getting very in high demand in the developers community, so the same has come to the database world now, where the data is stored in the JSON format. So this is a good in a way that if you work on the backend applications where you work on JSON, so the database also comes with JSON. So it brings you a friendly way of working, that both the backend part and the database part are of the JSON structure. And MongoDB is an open source application where you can install it from internet and use it as per your use case. So before starting the detailed discussion on PyMongo, so what we have done is, we have kept few slides where we will discuss what all skills are required, and is there any prerequisite like tools and technologies required for this learning, or what will you learn at the end of this. So it's a brief introduction on how we are going to cover the complete project, and at the end of this we will discuss in detail about what's the case study we have. So we have a case study that will tell you about how we are going to use PyMongo to build an end-to-end application for a particular use case. So the use case, as you see, is restaurant management system, where the backend database is MongoDB, and we are using Python as a programming language in between, which has PyMongo as a library to interact with the MongoDB. So that is a case study which we are going to cover here. So in detail we will discuss it afterwards. Let's start with this first step, that is, what is the difficulty level of this. So the difficulty level of this particular project is intermediate. Why I say intermediate is because we use Python and MongoDB, which both of these are new to the community. So by new, what I mean is, earlier we used to work with the structured databases. So this is getting popular in the recent years only. So this is new to everyone, and very few people work on the MongoDB using PyMongo. So this is a kind of intermediate level of project. We are not going to cover the very basics of the MongoDB or Python. We are going to cover the intermediate level of operations on MongoDB. Yeah. So to do this project, you must have the following skills. So the first skill you need is a mindset for learning Python. That means if you don't know how Python works, doesn't matter, because if you have a basic mindset to learn Python, that's more than enough. So if you talk about the basic operations, what we need in Python is, for example, what all data types Python have, how operators like equal to or greater than works within Python, how to write a simple function within Python, or I think let's take the simplest example, for example, how to execute a Python file. So these are some of the basic steps we need in Python, and we are going to cover everything here. So if you just have a mindset to learn Python, I think that's a kind of skill set you need, right? So second is basics of unstructured data, MongoDB. So considering the scope of this project is not MongoDB, so considering the scope is PyMongo, so we are not going to cover here the basics of MongoDB or the basics of unstructured data. So you should be aware of the basic difference between the structured data and unstructured data, and the basic operations which we can perform on unstructured data. So once you have the basics, you're clear with the basics, we are going to cover the next part here, that is how to interact with the MongoDB using Python. So next is the project objective. So the project objectives are that you should have a hands-on exposure to work with MongoDB. So what I mean by that is, the application which we are going to code, or the code which we are going to write, will give you an exposure to work with MongoDB. So exposure as in, so you will be able to create your own tables, you will be able to insert your documents, update your documents, delete your documents. So you will get an end-to-end exposure to work with MongoDB. So that is one of the major objectives and the scope of this particular learning. Python live coding environment. So by line coding experience, what I mean is that I'm not going to explain you a pre-written code in Python. So what we are going to do is, I'm going to write a Python code in front of you in the live environment, and I'm going to explain you each and every line and each and every word which we are going to write in Python, so that you can create your own application as per your use case in future. So these are the major objectives and scope of this learning. Now, so coming over to the next part, that is, what will you learn in this project? So number one is PyMongo, a Python library that enables us to work with MongoDB. So considering the scope of this project is PyMongo, so you will be learning the end-to-end and all the operations we have in PyMongo and how to use them to interact with the MongoDB. So this is a Python based application which we are going to learn. Now, are there any project requirement or prerequisite? So here we are going to discuss about the tools or technologies which act as a prerequisite requirement to work on this particular project. So the first one is Python IDE for coding. So I think that's a basic requirement, that considering it's an intermediate level of project which we are not going to discuss how to install Python or how to create a virtual environment or how to install a new IDE for it. So if you have a Python in your machine and you have any of the IDE available for you to work on Python, I think that's a kind of basic requirement for it. So there are multiple IDEs available for Python, so you can use any of them. So the one which we will be using in this particular project is PyCharm. So PyCharm has two versions available. One is paid and another one is free. The free version is called community version, which is available over the internet. You can download it and use it. So we will be using the same for this particular, but I think that's not a mandatory thing to have, because you can use any of the IDEs which you have. So that's just an environment where we are going to write a Python code. Second is MongoDB. So it's a freely available software over internet. I think it will be good that before we actually start the implementation of the code, it will be good that you can download the MongoDB from internet and install it on your machine. So these are the two things which should be handy before starting, that is a Python in your machine, a Python IDE to work on, and the MongoDB software. So these are prerequisites. So now we will discuss who are the target students for this particular project. By target student means that once you go through this particular project, who are the types of people who will get the maximum benefit out of it. So these are the target students here. Number one is Python developers. So if we talk about all the Python developers we have in our community, most of them work with the structured databases. So they used to write SQL and PL SQL codes to work with the structured database. Now, considering NoSQL database has come and it is getting popular in the recent years, so it's the need of the hour that the Python developers also need to learn how to work with the NoSQL databases, or how to write a Python code to work with the MongoDB or any of the other NoSQL databases available. So this is one of the important target students we are catering here, so that a Python developer which is already working on Python application should be aware how to write a new application which interacts with a NoSQL database. Now, the database developers. So database developers majorly write code with SQL, PL SQL codes within the structured databases. So now how we are targeting these are that, considering it's the NoSQL database is the next need, so they are aligned to one of the technologies, that is structured database. So they should be aware how non-structured databases are working, how to work with the data on them. So that is the next target, that a particular developer, if they are called as database developer, they should be aware that how structured databases and non-structured databases works. So that is another target. Now the data scientist. So if we talk about data scientists, they work on gigabytes or zettabytes of data to analyze the data and to extract important information out of it. So if that zettabytes of data is stored in Oracle databases, it will be very difficult to extract the data or to apply different analysis operations over it. So that is one of the main reason that the industry is moving towards non-SQL structured databases to non-structured databases. So where the data is stored in non-structured databases, for example, we have JSON formats in MongoDB. So once the data is stored in non-structured way, extraction of the data is very easy as compared to the non-structured database. So that is one of the targets here, that if you are a data scientist or if you are aspiring to be one, then I think learning a NoSQL databases that's a kind of mandatory skill in your resume that you should have, because a data scientist job cannot be fulfilled working with a structured databases, because they work on hell amount of data. So these are the 3 types of students we are targeting for this particular learning area. Now, by the end of this project, you will have the following skill set. Number 1, connect to MongoDB using Python. So what we are going to write here is, we are going to write a generic code that you can use the same code to any of the application which you are going to write for yourself. So it will be a generic in a way that the connection file which we are going to write, that will be same across all the operations which you are going to operate. For example, if you are going to insert a particular document, or if you wanted to delete a particular document, or for example if you are filtering the data, then the first thing is you have to connect to MongoDB. So that is what you will learn, that how to connect to a MongoDB using Python. Now create an end-to-end Python application which has MongoDB as a backend database. So by the end of this learning, what you will be able to create from yourself is, you will be able to create an end-to-end application by yourself as per your requirement, as per your use case, where the backend database will be MongoDB and the application code will be on Python, and it will be very easy to write because the syntax which Python provides is very user-friendly. So these are, by the end of this project, you will have these 2 skill sets. Now coming over to the case study. So the case study says, an owner of a leading restaurant chain wants to maintain the record of all the restaurants. So let's say the owner name is Charles, right? So Charles has different restaurants, multiple restaurants across the world. Let's take an example that he has a restaurant, one in Japan, one in India, some of them are in US, some of them are in UK. So he got multiple restaurants across the world. He need to maintain all the records of these restaurants. So what he wants to maintain is the number of customers. So considering he got a lot of restaurants under him, so the number of customers are also increasing day by day. So now he wants to maintain a single system where he has the details of all the customers of all the restaurants in it. Now he wants to maintain a customer order tracking. So he needs a single system where he should have information of what people are ordering, from which location they are ordering. For example, what's the main dish or the famous dish he has in his restaurant. So these are the type of analysis which he wants to do on a single system rather than having different system at different restaurants. Overall restaurants record. So these are the types of requirements which Charles has, and as a developer, what we'll be doing is we'll be helping him to create a single applications over MongoDB. Now let's discuss about the different scenarios which we will be covering using PyMongo. So different scenarios are, for example, considering that Charles wanted to move to a single system view. Earlier he used to have a CSV sheets. By CSV sheet we means his comma separated view, that is he used to have different CSV sheets for different restaurants at different location. Now considering he's building on a single application, he used to load the past history data of all the CSV into MongoDB. So this is the first thing we'll be covering in the detailed case study, that we will be loading his history data in CSV into MongoDB. So that is, I think, one of the major requirement of Charles. Now, so we'll be creating our application in a way that he will be able to insert new records in the different collections. So considering it's a restaurant management case study, what we'll do is we'll create different collections. For example, restaurants, customers, orders. We'll create different app collections over it, and we'll create a generic code that will help us to insert the data to different collections. Extraction and filtration of data on analysis purpose. So once all the data is loaded in the MongoDB, so we'll create an application in a way that will help Charles to analyze the data, to filter the data as per his requirement, so that he can analyze different use cases he has for all the restaurants. The next is converting unstructured data to structured format using pandas. So why this is important is, for example, considering Charles is not a technology person, he is not aware of what a JSON is. So once, for example, if he wanted to extract the data all the data which is stored, he wants the data in a structured format, which is rows to columns. So that is one of the important point here, that before the analysis, after the analysis purpose, what we can do is we can convert the unstructured data into structured format, into rows and column format, or we can create a CSV out of it and we can use it as per our use case. So these are the different scenarios which we are covering. Last scenario is deleting the data from MongoDB collections. So whenever there is a requirement, we will have an interface where you can delete the data from MongoDB collections. So these are the different scenarios which we are going to cover in the case study. So now let's start. We will start the coding part, where we will work on a case study of restaurant management system, and we will connect that restaurant management code to a backend database, that is MongoDB, right? So see, here I have created a restaurant management project, and within this project we will create multiple files, right, where we will write our code. So before starting the actual implementation of code, let's see how to install the MongoDB in the system and how to install PyMongo library, that is the Python library which will interact with the MongoDB, right? So considering I already have MongoDB installed in the system and PyMongo in the particular system, but I will still help you with the places where you can use to install it, right? So just open Google Chrome in your machine or any of the browser which you have, write MongoDB. So the MongoDB, the first page which you get is MongoDB, the most popular database in the modern apps, right? So just click on softwares here and click on Compass. So there are different softwares available for MongoDB, like community server, enterprise server, some free, some are paid. But for this particular learning, or for this particular project, we'll be using this Compass. So this is a GUI for MongoDB, right, which will help us to see the data, to understand the data, and to see whatever we implement, we can see it on the user interface, right? So just click on the Compass here, click on try it now. So here you can see the available downloads. So you can see this is the stable which you'll be working, this is the version which you'll be working on, and this is a quite stable version. And just choose your platform, Windows platform, whatever you have. So I have Windows 7. If you have Windows 7, just choose the coding bit and Windows, and then click on download. So this will give you the complete package of the MongoDB. You just need to install it in your machine, right? So this is how MongoDB you have to install it in your machine. So this is freely available, right? And you can easily use it on your system. Now coming to the PyMongo library. So first I'll show you. So once, so this is a PyCharm. So what I can do is I can show you the PyCharm also, from where you can install PyCharm. So just click PyCharm on the Google. So the first tab which you can see here is the PyCharm, the Python IDE. On this particular, just click on download here. And here, once you click on this download tab, you will get two options, that is professional and community. So I have Windows machine, so I'm going to download the Windows one, right? So professional and community. So community is for pure Python development, and professional is for multiple languages like HTML, JavaScript, and SQL support. But it is so it is for free trial. After that you have to pay, and this is free and open source. So this is what you have to download for this particular project, and this is what I am also using for this project, and this is freely and open source available over internet, so you can use this, right? Okay, so once you have, so what you need as a prerequisite is three things. One, MongoDB. Second, PyCharm IDE for Python. And third, Python installed in your machine, right? So the fourth thing which you need is Python MongoDB library, that is PyMongo, which we are going to install now. So I'll tell you how to install it, right? So once you'll create a project in PyCharm, so that's we have called it a restaurant management system. Just click on these external libraries. So this folder will be part of your virtual environment, which this PyCharm will create, right? So Python 3.7. So you'll see a folder here, site packages. Just click here, and here you will see PyMongo, right? So this is the library already available. So I'll show you how to check up MongoDB library, and then we will uninstall it and then reinstall it just for our learning purpose, right? So just right click on new and the Python file. So first file which we are going to create is the connection file. I'll name it as connection.py. Yeah. So the first line to check is I'll write import pymongo, right? So this is the library. So what import will do is import will bring all the libraries code which pymongo library has into this particular script so that you can use it, right? So just click on the run here. So this is the run button. Just click on here, and this particular program has been completed. So that means your system has pymongo library, right? If your system doesn't have a pymongo library, you will get some errors here, right? So this is, now I'll show you how to remove this pymongo library, and we will install it just for the learning purpose, right? So open command prompt. So once you have command prompt here, right, just type pip uninstall pymongo, right? So what this will do is this will remove, see, uninstalling pymongo would remove these. So bison, pymongo, everything will be removed. I'll just remove it from the system, and this has been successfully uninstalled, right? Okay, now what I'll show you is within this Python site packages, let's find pymongo. So we are not able to find, see, search option is pymongo. We are not able to find pymongo. So considering these are alphabetical orders, I'll just go down to check if we have pymongo. So we have a number of libraries, but the concern here is pymongo. Going down, we are C. So PyLint is here, PyODBC is there. So we should have pymongo here, but we don't have it, right? So because we have uninstalled it. Now if you try to run this connection.py, the error you will get is no module named pymongo. That is, your machine doesn't have pymongo library, right? So that is why this import is failing. So this is the error which you will get if you don't have pymongo in your machine. So to resolve this, what we will do is, we will again what you have to do is you have to open your command prompt. What you have to write is pip install pymongo, right? So collecting pymongo, and it will download and install all the pymongo things for you, right? So now let's see here in the site packages. Now you can see you have this pymongo library available, right? So this is the site packages folder here, and you have pymongo library available. Now if you run this collection.py, see, the script is running. So just for your purpose, I can print a message here, pymongo is available, right? So I'll just run it, and it will print pymongo is available, right? So that means the import is working fine. So that is how we are going to test that pymongo is available in your machine or not, and if it is not available, how to install it. Pip install pymongo. So just make sure before running pip install, pip is another library, a Python library which you need in your machine. So considering all these things are not in the scope of the project, so I'm not going to tell you how to install a pip library, but pip is another library which is a requirement to install other libraries, right? So to reiterate what all are the prerequisite for this particular project is, one is MongoDB, right? Second is Python in your machine. Third is some of the required libraries. Then what we need is fourth. What we need is PyCharm IDE. PyCharm IDE. Then what else we need after this is, so the final is pymongo. So these are the 5 things required, are the kind of essential things to learn on this project. So we have covered pretty much everything here. Sorry, the Python spelling is wrong. We can correct it. Yeah. So these are the mainly 5 things which you need for this project, and I think which we have pretty much covered. The MongoDB, Python, I think these 2 things you should be aware of looking at the scope, and PyCharm and pymongo I've shown you the places from where to install, right? So these are the prerequisite. So now we will start the coding part. So the first script, the Python code which we are going to write is to connect to MongoDB. So as we have already created a file called connection.py, we are going to use the same file, and we are going to write the code in connection.py. So before connecting to MongoDB, before writing the code, I'll show you what are the connection strings to connect to MongoDB, right? So going to MongoDB, I'll just close and reopen it. Here you can see there, these are the different databases available. So this is restaurant management, which we have created for our use case. Then these are admin and config, which comes by default. Within this database, we have example. I've added a collection here. This is a collection example. And then we have documents here. So test. This is a sample document which I've installed for you, right? So this is sample one, right? So to connect to a DB, just click on connect. On the left hand side corner, you will see connect and click on connect to. So it is initializing. It will take around few seconds to open the MongoDB. Yeah. So there are different plugins in it, and it is activating. I think it should be activated by now. And here you will see the DB, right? So this is the MongoDB, and what you can do is you can click on here, fill in connection fields individually, and here are the host name and port name. So if you're working for a big company, so they will have their own host where the MongoDB will be installed and their own ports. But considering we have installed our MongoDB on our local machine, so we are using the local host and the by default port they have given, right? So just click on connect here. Here you will see the same thing, right? So the restaurant management DB example is the collection, and then the test DB. Now what we are going to do is we are going to connect the MongoDB via Python, right? Okay. So coming to the python.py, right? So I'll just remove these prerequisites. I'll remove this Python command. So first we will see if this import pymongo is working or not. I'll just run this connection.py and it is working, right? So just to reiterate, what import pymongo is doing is pymongo is a library, and it is what we are doing is we are importing all the pymongo to this particular script so that we can use all the functions or the attribute which pymongo is providing, right? So to start, first what we are going to write is we are going to write a function to connect. Let's call it as con. I'm giving a naming, so you can give the name as per your convenience. I'm giving this as con. Def is the definition, so that is how we write a function in Python, right? So def con. First I'll write a Mongo URI. So that's a URL by which we connect to MongoDB. I'll show you. So when you connect, you can see that there are different host and port numbers available. So you have to use the same host number and port number in a particular convention. I'll show you here. Within the codes, what you have to write is you have to write MongoDB, right? And then localhost. So this is the host which you will be connecting to, and then the port number. So port number is 27017, right? So this is the connection string which we were using to connect to MongoDB. So this is your host. So considering MongoDB is in the local machine, we'll be using the local host, and this is the port number. So this is the Mongo URI which we'll be using to connect to MongoDB, right? So now the client will be connecting. So we are creating an object called client which will be connecting to pymongo, right? So pymongo dot, there's a attribute called mongo client which you can see in the drop down. I think that's the best thing of PyCharm is it will give you all the attributes available for a particular function, right? So pymongo library has an attribute with it which is called mongo client. We'll just use the same pymongo.mongo client, and we will use the same URI in it. So we'll pass the mongo URI, right? So now what we have done is the mongo URI which we have created, we are passing it to client, and this function will always return you client, right? Now what we have done is we have created a function which will return you client. Now let's see if we are able to MongoDB or not. So right, so before writing more code, or before writing proceeding to more code, let's see if whatever we have written as of now is correct or not, right? If name is equals to main, what this particular line says is if name is equals to main. So this is a way how we call this function of a same script in which we are working on in Python, right? So client is equals to con. So what I'm doing is I'm calling the same function con, which is returning client to us. So the client is returned in this client, and then now we will see if we are able to connect. So first I'm printing it for you. I'm printing the list of database available, right? So client dot list database names. So we have a method available here which is list database names. We are using the same from the drop down, right? So let's try to run this. So whatever we have done for now is, what we have done is we have created a function called con. This is the Mongo URI, which is the connection string to connect to MongoDB, where localhost is the host and 27017 is the port. Then we have used this method Mongo client and passed the connection string to it, which returns the client object, right? And we are using the same client object to connect to MongoDB. So that particular client has a function called list database names. So I hope that we should able to get all the list of database available in this particular MongoDB, right? So I'll just run it, run connection. See, what we have got here is a list of 3 DB names. One is restaurant management, admin, and config. Now, if we go to our MongoDB, which we connected with these strings, we can see that 3 DB databases are available. That is restaurant management, admin, and config. And the same we can see here also, right? So we can iterate towards in the same way we can iterate to collections and to documents also, which we are going to cover in the next topics or in the next lectures. But considering the scope of this particular lecture was to connect to MongoDB, I think we are able to successfully connect to it. So another thing which I can show you is I can show you another way of listing the database names. So here we have just the database names, right? So for example, if you need more details for databases, whatever are available, so there's another method available called list databases. So what I'll do is I'll write a for function to it, right? For db in, and then client. So client is returned from the con function, and then we have then we have this list databases. So yeah, so list databases name we have already used to name to get the names of the databases. Now we are going to use the list databases, right? Then the semicolon, and here I'm going to write print db. So what we are doing here is we are iterating to the list databases and then printing it for each, right? I'll just run this connection. See here, what you have got is few more details on the databases. Database name, size on disk, that what is the size of your database, that is 40960, and is it empty or not. So these are few more attributes, few more database details which you can get from this method called list databases. And list database names will give you just the names of databases available in your MongoDB, right? So I think this is pretty much what we have for connection script, where we are going to connect to MongoDB. So just make sure this particular function is running for you, because we are going to call the same function in the rest of the scripts which we are going to write, because I think creation of the client object again and again is not a good idea. So all the code for creation of client is here, and you will be using just this function, and this will return a client for you, which you can use it for your purpose in the subsequent scripts, right? So this is so I think the intention of writing this way is that we are keeping the code a bit generic, so that the same connection strings can be used across scripts, so that we need not to rewrite the code in the multiple script, the same code, right? So what I mean by object creation is creation of a new database in the MongoDB, or creation of a collection within a particular database, or let's say creation of the documents within a collection. So it can be anything. So considering now we are able to connect to MongoDB using Python or using PyMongo library. So the next step is the creation of database, so that we can play around with the data or the collections we have, and we can get the requirement data out of it, right? So what I'll do is in this restaurant management, what I'll do is I'll create a new file here, new Python file. Just right click on new, and go to Python file. Within Python file, I will give the name of the new file, let's say object creation. So you can name it anything. I'll give it as object creation.py, right? So as the first step, what I'll do is I'll try to write a function of create object, let's say, right? Create object, and I'll try to write a function. So, okay, so considering this connection file has a conf function which gives us the client object, I will try to import that, right? From connections. So connection is not coming as import. So what I'll do is I'll make this restaurant management as a source root, so that from here what I can do is from connection import cone, right? So cone is a function which I've already created in the connection. We'll reuse the same, considering we have already discussed that we'll try to write the code as much as generic and with the standards, with the coding standard. So we'll try to reuse the functions which we have already created. So we are using this con function here, which will give us a client object by collecting to the MongoDB, right? After that, what I'll do is I'll try to create a database here. So trying to create a database, for example, db is equals to client and db name. So db name should be passed in the function, right? So it should be something like this. Yeah. So let's try to write if function so that we can test what we are writing. If name is equals to main, so I think we've already discussed that this is the way we used to write main in Python to call a particular function, right? Okay, so we'll have a db name equal to, let's say, torrent, yeah, and I'll call the create object passing db name in it, right? So what we are doing here is we have created a function called create object where we have passed the db name, and within the client I have passed the db name and in the brackets, in the square brackets, which will create db for us, right? And db name is restaurant I've kept. If I open the MongoDB which I've already created, I can see that there, I'll just refresh it and I can see there are just two by default, admin and config, two databases. So we need one more restaurant. So let's name it as restaurant management rather than, so it should be consistent across the project. So let's name it as restaurant management. So I'll just run the script and we are expecting that the restaurant management database should be there, right? I'll just run it. Okay, so we got an error, and what is that error is, let's see. So in the object creation, what we are getting as an error is db name and client. So it should be like database name cannot contain a character. Okay, so it should be like space. I think the error was that a restaurant and space management, so a db name shouldn't have this space character in it. So all the databases shouldn't have space. It should be like a character. So I for now I've kept underscore to it, right? So I'll just try to run it. Okay, the script has completed. Add a message also, just so that everyone can understand. db created, right? So I'll rerun it. Yeah, so we have got this message db created. So let's see if we have got that message. I'll just refresh it and we can see that the db has not been created. So I think why this hasn't been created is one of the important topics, and we are going to discuss that why database has not been created. So one important point which is about database or collection creation is that database will not be created if it is empty. One thing. So there are 2 points, important points we have. One, so if a particular database is already created in the database, in the MongoDB, if we have the database, so creation of the database will not have any impact on that, right? If a particular database is not present and we are trying to access that particular database, so it will automatically create the database. Okay, so I'll repeat, if a particular database is present and we will try to create it, so that will not have any impact. It will just try to access it. Second point, if a particular database is not present in MongoDB and we try to access it, so it will automatically create the database. So now here, considering the restaurant management is not present in MongoDB and we are trying to access the restaurant management here, so it should have created automatically. Why we are not able to see this particular database in MongoDB is because that is empty. So one main rule of MongoDB is that there has to be at least one collection and one document to see that particular database. So one reason is this, that we are not able to see the restaurant management. And second point is, whenever you will be able to access a particular database, if it is not present, MongoDB will itself create that, right? So considering it is empty, let's try and create a collection over it, right? So what I'll do is I'll create a collection which should be like db, and it should be call name. Call name should also come as a parameter to function, right? And it should be called from, right? What I'll do is I'll create a call name is equals to, let's create it as a test collection, right? So I've created a collection which name is test collection, and I've passed it to the function so that this can be created. So we are trying to access this collection. That means if a collection is not available, it will already create that collection, right? So I'm just printing this message so that we get to see where the function is, right? I'll just run this object. Okay, so DB created, collection created, right? I'll just refresh the database and we are still not able to see. So as I've already told you, the main reason why we are not able to see is because the collection is empty. So we have to insert the data in the collection to see the particular database and collection there. So to insert the data, what I'll do is I'll insert some dummy data, right? So there's a function method called insert1. I'll use the same collection.insert1. That is, we are trying to insert the data in collection. And for that, what I'll do is I'll try to insert the dummy data in the format of dictionary, right? So let's say test key, and I'll write it as test value. So considering the data in the MongoDB is in the form of JSON or is in the form of key value pair or in the form of unstructured data. So this is just a dummy data which I'm going to insert in the collection which we have created, and the collection name is test collection, right? So this will insert the data. I'm just again printing the message so that we'll see where the function is. Data being inserted. So this will insert the data for us, right? Now let's try and run the function. DB has been created, collection has been created, and data has been inserted. Now let's go to MongoDB, refresh it, and here you can see that we have restaurant management as a DB, right? And then we have a test collection as collection. I'll just click on test collection. Here you can see test key and test value, right? So this is the document which we have inserted. So this has inserted the document for us. This has created the DB for us, and DB created the collection for us, right? So let's try to access these in the Python now, right? Okay, so I'll just print it for you. Print the created client. Client has an object in it, which we have already discussed. List database names, right? So it will give us all the database names. Then we will print again. What we will print here is db dot list collection names. So it will give us all the collection present in the DB, and then I will print the data for you, right? So list of data within the collection, right? So what I'll do is collection dot find. So here's a function called collection dot find, and I will pass the empty brackets here, right? First I'll run this function for you so that we'll able to see what this function is doing, and then I'll explain what it is doing, right? Okay, so what here it has done is DB created, collection created, data has been inserted. So database names are. So first thing we were checking was list of database names, which were restaurant management, admin and config. So we'll see what all databases are present. So here we have restaurant management, admin and config. Then we have written list collection names within the DB. So it will give us the collection name as test collection, which is we have checked. Then the data inside it. So considering test key, test value, test key, test value. Considering we have executed the script twice. So this test key and test value. So there are two documents of this name, right? So there are two documents because we executed this script twice. Okay. So now considering you can see that I executed this script twice and the same database. So when the first time I executed it, the database which was not present, it created it automatically. And the second time when I executed it, the database was present. So it used the same, right? Right. Here you can see the data as well, right? So now I think now we are successfully able to create the database, the collections within a particular MongoDB. So the two important point which we have discussed in this particular lecture is that one, that whenever a DB is whenever our code will try to access a database, if it is not present, the PyMongo will automatically create the database. So if the database is present, it will access it. Otherwise, it will automatically create it. Now, second important point, that is if a particular collection or a particular database, if all the collection of a database are empty, you will not be able to see the database in the database. So to see the database and collections in the particular MongoDB, you have to at least have one row in that, right? One row, by what I mean by one row is at least you should have one document in it. So in this case also you can see that as the time we inserted this test document in it, it created the database, it created the collection, and whenever we find it with the empty curly braces means we just need to get the rows with no condition. So we haven't passed any condition, we have just written collection.find. We have got the object also, right, which is test key and test, which we can see here as well, which we inserted twice. So if you'll run the script again, it will run again where DB created, collection created, data has been inserted thrice. So I'll just refresh it for you to see if we have 3 rows. We have 3 rows. So that is what we have learned here is we have created a database, we have created a collection, we have inserted some of the database in and checked. We have cross-checked if the database is present or not. What I mean by bulk load is to load a large amount of data in a single go. So the requirement of bulk load is, for example, in our case, Charles, the owner of multiple restaurants, wanted to move to a more formalized way of a technical solution, which includes MongoDB and Python. But in past, he used to work on CSV files, that is comma separated files. So he has a lot of past data with him. So he has a lot of, for example, the customers, the restaurants data with him, which is stored in CSV file. But as he's moving towards a more technical solutions of MongoDB and Python, what he needs is his first requirement is so that he can use the same kind of data. Same data needs to be loaded to MongoDB also, and the future data also to be stored in MongoDB in the same format, right? So that is the first requirement. And that is what we are going to cover here. So the bulk load, to load the bulk data in a single script, right? So to start the same, what we have done is I've created a folder called sample data. Within the sample data, we have a few files like customer data, orders data, restaurants data, and I've kept some sample data in it so that we can see how to load the bulk data, right? So before starting, what we will do is we will go through each file so that we can understand what kind of data we have as dummy data with us, right? So first I'll open the customers data. So how customers data look is, this is the customer ID, this is the name of the customer, then we have address, then birth date, and then email. So these are the few attributes we have for customer data. So you can have any number of rows. Just for this sample data, we have around 16 customers data which we need to load in one go, right? So this is a kind of past data use case we have and we wanted to load it. Now coming to the restaurants data. So this is the restaurant ID, Then we have star, that is a restaurant rating. That is what kind of restaurant is that? Is it like 3 star, 4 star? Then we have the name of the restaurant, which is Norma Dinner in the Sky or something. So there are few sample names which I have kept for loading of the data. Then next attribute is country, right? So USA, France, UK, India, Japan. So these are the attributes of restaurants. So the in our use case, the Charles has multiple restaurant across the world, right? Then we have orders data. So how orders data look is, we have orders in a form that a particular customer orders in a particular restaurant, where we have restaurant ID, the type of cuisine he enters, orders, and then the feedback he has given to the particular order. So this is the kind of orders data we have. So our requirement is to load all the three types of data we have in the MongoDB, and to create an application so that the future data can also be loaded in the same format, and the past data can also be used for analysis, right? So let's go to the MongoDB which we created. So as you all are aware that we have already created a collection called test collection, and the DB name is restaurant management. What we are going to do is, we are going to create a list of collections in the same DB only, right? In the same DB we are going to create collections. Now, considering we have been through the data, now what we will do is, we will start the implementation part of the bulk load, right? So right click on restaurant management, click on new Python file. So Python file name should be bulk load. So I'm keeping the name as bulk load, right? For the purpose of bulk load, considering our data is in CSV format, so our first objective should be to convert that CSV format in the dictionary format, right? Why we are doing this? Because the data in the CSV format is in the structured format, but in MongoDB we store the data in unstructured format. So that is one of the important reason why we are converting the data in the unstructured format, that is in the dictionary format. So first step to load the bulk data is to convert CSV to dict. So what this means is, we are converting a CSV to dictionary, right? Now, which file we need to convert, right? So considering there are multiple files in it, what I'll do is, I'll pick each file one at a time. Before and from which directory we have to pick the file, first I'll do is direct path, that is directory path, that in which directory our sample data is. So how to get the directory path out of it? So in Python what we have is os.path.realpath. So what is OS? OS is a library in Python. What I'll do is, first I'll import OS, right? So import OS is important. That is, after that only we will able to run all the functions of OS. So what we will do is os.path.realpath, in the brackets I'll give file. So what this will give us, the directory of the current file which we are working on. So bulk load is kept here. So it will give us the directory, that is restaurant management system. This will give the file name of the file which we are working on. Now we need to file the directory of the same. So for directory, what we need to do is os.path.dir name, right? So it's like dir name, and this as a parameter to this function. So os.path.dir name, inside we have given os.path.realpath file. So now dir path is the directory of the restaurant management folder, right? So the path of restaurant management folder is in the dir path. Now we have to go to sample files within the sample data, right? Now what we will do is, path of file, we will create path of file now. For now what we have created is the direct path of directory. Now within the directory we will go to sample data, and then within the sample data we will go to file. And how we are going to do is, again doing os.path.join. So this is what we have, and within that what we will do is, we will give dir path, that is directory path. Within the directory path we have to go to sample data. So we will mention it like this. We will go to sample data, and within the sample data we have to go to a particular file name. Let's give it as this variable as a file name, right? And that file name should be have CSV in it, right? So what I'll do is I'll name it as this dot CSV, right? So file name is an attribute which is coming from inside, right? I've done as of now is that directory path, the path of the directory. Within that directory, I move to sample data, and sample data, I move to a particular file name. So this path has a path of a particular file which I'll be giving the parameter to. If I give this parameter as customer, so this path is the file of customer.csv. If I give this as orders, so this path is the path of file order.csv, right? So this path, the path which we have created, will help us to read the file at a particular path. So this is, so why we are doing this is because we have to write the code in a generic way so that the same script can be used to load different CSV files. Now, what we will do is we will create a data frame of the files which we are going to read, right? PD dot, so PD is pandas library. What we will do is we will import this also, import pandas as PD, right? So we have imported pandas and we are using the same now. So PD dot read CSV. Now what we are doing is we are reading the CSV and we are reading which file, which is path, right? Path. So now what we have done is we have read this particular file which is at this path and created it in the data frame format. So data frame is a table like structure which pandas will create for you. Then we have list. Let's create an empty list and I'll name it as list of docs. And this is empty, right? So what we will do is we will fill this particular empty list with the data we have in the data frame. Now, so what we will do is we will iterate on the data frame which we have created, df.index colon. So what this will do is this will give I is the index every time we will iterate over the rows of the data frame, right? So what we have to do here is list of docs dot append, where we are appending the data, and within this what we will do is we will use dict of df dot iloc. So I know these particular things are a bit new to you because you are not been very familiar with the pandas, but what we will do is we will go through each and every line what it is doing, right? So return list of docs. Now what we have done as of now is we have created a function which is csv to dict, right? What it is doing is it is that first it is taking the directory path. Directory path is the path of the file where your sample file is created, path of the directory with and where your sample data is. Then we have created a path which is the path of the file you wanted to load. So it is os.path.join directory path. Within the directory you wanted to go to sample data, and within the sample data you wanted to go to file name, right? Then I've created a df which will read this path file at this path and create a data frame out of it. Data frame is a table like structure. Now this is an empty list. Now you will iterate on that particular data frame and you will read row by row. So I is the index of that row. So df.iloc I will give you the particular row. For example, first it will give you the first row, second row, third row, and every row which it given is converted into dictionary, and after that it is appended to that list, right? So this list of docs is the list of dictionaries which we wanted to load in the MongoDB, right? So just for our purpose, what I'll do is I'll log this particular script because it's a bit complex one. So what I'll do is I'll import logging also, so that we'll get to know what is happening at each step, right? So what I'll do is logging dot basic config, yeah, and within that what I'll give is level is equals to logging dot. So what this line means is we have initiated this logging and we have given the base level to info. So considering this list of docs is created in the for loop, what I'll do is I'll print this for you, logging dot info, and within that logging what I'll do is I'll created for you that document to load is, so this is the document which we are going to load, right? Yeah, and this is the document. So this is how we used to write this in Python, and here I will give list of docs. So what it will print you? It will print you the document which we are going to print, right? Now, one function which we have written is CSV to dict. It will convert your CSV to dictionary. Now, second is the load data. Load bulk data. The data which we have created in the above function which we are going to load here. Let's start writing it. Now, we are going to call the con function, that is connection function again. So what I'll do is import connection. Sorry, the spelling mistake. Import connection. It should be like from import from connection. Sorry, import and con. So I've imported it. I'll use the same client which we used to create from the same function connection. So it should be con, right? So here we got the client. Now we have to load this particular data in a particular DB and the particular collection, right? So what I'll do is first let's take parameter file name, so that which file to load, DB name, to which DB name we wanted to load it, and the collection. So this particular function takes three attributes: which file to load, which DB to load, and which collection name, right? So just to check this function, what I'll do is I'll create that if function, if name equal to, right? What I'll do is I'll write my function, I'll write my test script here so that we can test whatever we have written. So first is DB name. Our DB name is our DB name is restaurant management, right? Now coming to the collection name. Collection name is equals to, I'll name it as for example customers, right? And now file name. So let's try to load first customer.csv, right? So the file name is customer, right? So we are going to load this file. Within this DB we have collection called customer. We have to load customer.csv. Now here what we will do is we will call the function load bulk data. First we will pass DB, first we will pass file name, right? Then DB name, and then collection name. Yeah, this one, right? So what we have done is we have passed, sorry, it should be like this. Yeah, so these three we have passed here. Within this, these three things will go and this will load the data. Now let's write the data for loading it, right? Now let's log something, logging.info, and what we have to write is DB name in these. So let's see what all DB names we have, right? Okay, so DB names in Mongo DB are, now within this we will write client.list database names, which we have already discussed. Client dot should be in the format client.list DB names, right? So this will print all the DB names for us. Now let's go to the particular DB which we are talking about. Let's name it as myDB. So myDB is equals to get attribute and client. So within the client we need to move to, within the client we need to move to DB name, right? So DB name. So I'll explain you what it is doing. Now it should be right my collection. Within that database we'll go to collection. My collection is equals to get attribute. Within that attribute we will go to myDB, comma, collection name. So it should be like call name. Now we have collection, right? So what we are doing here is this get attribute within the client. it will go to this DB name. Once we have DB, within this DB, we will go to the collection name which we are getting here, right? So this is the object which we will use to load the data. Now we will use which file to load. Considering we have to load the customer.csv, we will convert this CSV to dictionary, right? So data to load is equals to CSV to dict. We'll call the function and pass the file name in it, right? What we have done is we have passed the file name to it. This data which is converted into dictionary, we have to load it. Now the collection which we require to load the data is mycall.insert many, and then we have mycall.insert many, and then we have this data, right? So what's happening here is, I'll explain you what's happening here. So what we have done is we have created a collection object. Within the collection object, first we have converted our data to CSV, and then that CSV data is so we have converted our CSV data to dictionary, and then that dictionary is passed to a function called insert many, which is used to insert as many records as you want to your collection, right? Let's try to run a particular script which we have written, right? I'll just click on run and see it is happening. So what all information or what all logging has printed for us is DB name in MongoDB are restaurant management, admin and config. These three we have, and document to load is customer ID, this name, and everything, right? So let's go to our database now. I'll refresh it for you. Here, see, we have a collection which we created just now. We will go to this collection and we will see the data here. We have customer ID, name, address, birth date, and email. So we have all the documents here. So this is how we used to load a particular file. Now our requirement was not to load a particular file, our requirement was to load all the files, right? So what we can do for that is, to make it more generic, what I'll do for you is I'll have a dictionary called data load. What I'll do is I'll make it as what is the file name which we are loading and what should be the collection name, right? So it should be like customer is the file name, and then the collection shouldn't be customer name, right? In the second case also, it should be like orders, and the collection name should be orders. So what we have done is we have created a dictionary of key value pair where key is the file name restaurants and the value is the collection name, right? Now, so we will iterate through this. I'll just remove it because this is customer specific. We will iterate to our data load. So for key comma value in data load dot items, right? So we are going to I'm going to explain you what each step is doing. Now we will call the load data bulk, where we are going to pass the key first, that is the file name, and then I'm going to pass the DB name which we have already written above, and then the value, that is the collection, right? So I'll just remove it. Now let's see what is happening here, right? So for our purpose, for logging purpose, what I can do for you is I can add few more logs so that we can understand what's happening at each step. So logging dot info, right? Data is loading. Data is loading for DB, in which DB we are loading, right? So it should be DB name and collection, and in which collection we are loading the data now. So collection name is key, right? In which collection we are loading, right? So it should be something like this. Now what we have is logging, which we have already added. Now let's add another log here, right? Once all the load is completed, logging.info, I'll write a message here, data load has been completed, right? Now what we have done is, so considering this is almost complete now, bulk load script, what is happening is, first we have created a function csv2dict, which is converting all our CSV data to a dictionary format. So this is the list which contains all the dictionaries, right, which you need to load. Then we have created a function which is load bulk data, where we have passed the file name, that which file needs to be loaded in the which database and in which collection, right? So this is loading it, right? Now let's see what is happening here. So this is the DB name. Restaurant management is our DB, which will in which we need to load the data. Then we have data load. That is, data load is a dictionary where a key is the file name and value is the collection. So we need to load customers file in customers collection, orders file in orders collection, restaurants file in restaurants collection. So for key value, now we are iterating over this, right? So for key value in data load dot items, so this is data load dot items, where key value, now data is loading in. Now we have passed these attributes to load bulk data, is a function which we have already created, right? Key, comma, DB name, DOMA, value, right? Let's go to the database first. Let's try and delete these which is already created, right? So customer, I'll just drop this collection. I'll drop this as well, which we created for our purpose, right? Test collection, and it is drop, right? So what it should do is, it should create the database for you. It should load all the data. I'll just run this bulk load. Okay, now see, first let's see if the data is loaded or not. I'll just refresh it to see if the data is loaded or not. See, we have the customer collection. Customer has all the customers data in it, right? All the attributes like customer ID, name, address, birth date, email, right? Then we have orders. Orders also has all the data, customer ID, restaurant ID, cuisine. Then we have restaurants. Restaurant also has the required attributes, right? So this is how we have loaded the bulk data into MongoDB. Now let's go to the logs. So what it is doing is, data is loading for DB this and collection customers. First it is loading for customers. So this is the list of dictionaries which is trying to load. Data is loading for orders, then it loaded for restaurants, right? So then data load has been completed. So this data load has been completed for all the three files. Now, so we will just brief you what we have done in this particular script, right? First, this is the logging which we have used as a logger at multiple places, just to understand how our script is working, right? So these logs are coming from this logging only. Now first function is csv2dict, which is converting our CSV to dictionary. So this is the path of the directory. This path is the path of the file which we need to load, right? And this particular function is converting the row into a particular dictionary and creating a list of dictionaries for us which we need to load, right? So the next function which we return is load bulk data, where we are getting the DB name, collection name, and we are getting the particular object of that collection, and then a particular dictionary is inserted into that, right? Now how we are calling it is, we have created a data load dictionary, which is a key value pair of collection name and the file name. So the first is file name, and then we have collection name. Now we have iterated over this dictionary to load the data, right? And then we have a logger called data has been loaded, data has been completed, right? So this is all what we can do for bulk load. So this is a generic in a way that you can load as many files as you need in the collections as per your requirement. Just the requirement is that you need to add another key to this dictionary of data load. Once you have another key with the file name, you can load the data in the MongoDB. You need not to change anything in the functions above, because these functions are very generic and will work for all the CSV files you have, right? So I think this also covers our intention of writing a very generic code, because code is generic in a way that you just have to insert a particular attribute here. If a new CSV comes, you have to insert it here and you have to run this particular script. This will load all the data for you, right? So I think this covers another important topic of bulk load for us, where we are loading the past a large amount of data to MongoDB. Now let's move towards the next part of bulk load. So by next part of bulk load, what I mean is, so bulk load can be done in multiple ways. What we have done for now is bulk load on the CSV data, that is comma separated file. Now we will do a bulk load on a JSON file. So the past data which we have got, we can receive that in multiple formats, right? So that can be in CSV format, that can be in JSON format, or that can be in any other format. That can be in XML format also, right? So what we are going to cover here is, we have already covered the bulk load of CSV. Now we will cover the bulk load of JSON data. So what I've done for this is, I've taken a res JSON file which is of this format, which you can see on the screen, right? Right. So we will go through this JSON file first, and then we will try to load this file, right? Okay. So what this has is, this has a list, a square bracket first, which shows that a list is starting, and then we have this curly braces in which we have a data of one document, right? So this is how we have to load the data in MongoDB for JSON file. So a list which has a list of documents in it, one document has a data, right? So it is URL, address, address line 2, name, outcode, postcode, rating, and the type of food, right? So this is also restaurant data which we have taken. So this is another type of restaurant data, and we are going to load it in our MongoDB, to load the same JSON file in the MongoDB, right? So for this, what we are going to do is, in this I'll create a new file, a new Python file, which is, I'll name it as resjson.py, right? So we have this file here. Let's try to load it. So what we are going to do is, we are going to write a function called insert JSON, let's say, right? And here we are going to write code to insert the JSON file into Mongo. First thing, as we are going to do in every, as we do in every lecture, is create a connection. And to create a connection, what we have to do is, we have to import the connection file, right? So connection file is here, from connection import con function which we have created. So con is the function which we have created, and client is the object we have got to connect to. Now, so where this res JSON which we need to load is in the sample data. Now we will try to access this file, so that we can access this res underscore JSON and we can load it, right? So to do it, what we will do is, first we will find out the directory of the script, right? I think we have already discussed it. So I'll write it, how to find the directory of is os.path .real path, which will, we have to import OS also. So it's an inbuilt library, real path, and within the real path, we have to give file. So what this will do for us is, it will give the path of the file. Now we have to find the directory of this file, right? So to go to the directory, what I will do is os.path.dir name. Yeah. So we have a function here called dir name, which will give us the directory. So I'll just keep this here. Yeah. So this here we have the directory of the file which we are working on. So we are working on res.json. So this has the file of the path of res.json. Now we will find the path of the file which we need to load. In the same way, we will use the OS library. We will use os.path.join, where we will join all the paths. First, we need the directory of the path. Sorry, yeah, we need the dir path. Then what we need is folder name, which is sample data, right? Then we need is file name, which should be a variable which you are going to add, and then it should be of the JSON extension. So what I'm going to do is, I'll add the extension here, right? It should be .json. So I'll take file name as input, right? Now, so this is the path of the file which we are going to access. Now what we will do is, we will create the DBs and the object which we use to do it, right? So my DB is equals to get attribute, where I'll pass the client first, client, and then the DB name. So DB name we have to take from here. We will pass it to the function which we are going to write, right? So it should be like this: db name comma collection name. So these are the two variables which this function will accept. So once we have this, what I'll do is I'll create the object of collection. So my call is equals to get attribute, and I'll pass my db comma call name, right? So here we have the collection object now. So we will use the same collection object to load the data. Now what we will do is we will try to access the file. How to access the file in Python is with open. We will try to open the file which is at this path which we have already found. The file which is present is this path. We are going to open it as a variable f. So f is an object which will have this file. Now we are going to load it. So data is equals to json.load. Now JSON is a library which we need to import and comes inbuilt to Python, right? So we are going to use the same library json.load, and we are going to pass the file object here, which is f, right? So now we have the data in this. Now what we are going to do is we are going to load in the data here. My call dot insert many, which we have already discussed. So my call has a function called the collection object has a function insert many, where we will pass this data, right? So this is how we are going to load the JSON file as a bulk load. Now let's test it with the way we used to do it. If name is equals to main, right? If name is equals to main, db name is equals to it should be the restaurant name which we are already using in all of the project, right? And then the collection name. So collection name is a variable, and it should be let's give it a name as rest_json, right? So it is the restaurant data in the JSON format, right? Okay, error here, it should be double equal. Okay, so we have the collection name now. Let's say which is the JSON file name we need to load. JSON file is equals to, the file name is res_json. So I'll give it as res_json, right? Now I'll call the function which we have written, that is insert JSON. Insert JSON should have db name as the first variable, and then the column name should be like COLL, collection name, sorry, and then the JSON file, right? So what we are doing here is we are passing this JSON file to the insert JSON function which we have created, and within the insert JSON function what we have written is we are trying to load the JSON file by opening it with open path as f, and then we are inserting it with insert many. Let's try and run the rest JSON file now. Okay, so string object has no, so we got this error here that we it has okay, yeah, so error is here. As you can see that this is the extension, so it should come within quotes. Yeah, now let's try to rerun it. I think it looks good this time. Again, I think bad operand plus. Okay, this should be plus and not the comma, and it should be like plus. Yeah, both the operators were not working. Then we have, look, this looks good. Yeah. Now what this error is saying is that db already exists with a different case. Okay, so this is handled within PyMongo, that the kind of db name we have passed, it already exists but with a different case already have, right? So this is already present but we gave it small m. So what we have done now is we have corrected it, and we will try to run it again. Okay, now the function has completed successfully, right? Let's see if we have our data in MongoDB or not. I'll just refresh it, and here we can see that we have res_json as a collection and we have the data in it, right? So these are the different kind of rows we have added with the JSON format, right? So what we have covered in this particular lecture is we have tried loading the JSON bulk load, which is a data which is present in the JSON file, and we are trying to load it via PyMongo. So the requirement can be of any format, like the data can be in CSV also and can be JSON also. So we have covered both the cases. So the next topic which we are going to cover is data insertion. So the data which we have inserted as of now was history data. That is, we have loaded it in bulk, all the history data which was present in CSVs. Now what we are going to do is we are going to write an interface which we will be using to load the data in future. That is, we will be calling that interface every time whenever a new customer or a new order or a new restaurant comes, right? So let's try and write a script to insert the data into MongoDB which is other than bulk load. So it will be a single or a multiple data load, multiple documents, but the amount will be less as compared to bulk load, and the load will be on the collection basis. That is, we will pass the collection in which we have to load the data, right? So I'll name it as for example, data insertion .py, right? So here we are going to write an interface which will insert the data in the collections, and we will try to keep the code in a generic that you can call the same interface every time, and you just have to pass the parameter that what's the data you are going to put, or what in which collection you are going to put it. So to start with, let's keep the function name as insert data, and let's keep the parameters as db name. Let's say in which db we wanted to insert the data to, collection name, in which collection we want the data to be inserted to, and the data which we need to insert, right? So we will talk regarding this also, that what is the data format we need to insert, right? Okay, now considering we have to connect to client first, so we need the connection function. So in the same way we will import the con function, con, and then client is equal to con. So con has returned an object which is client, which will help us to iterate or to move to a particular database or to a particular collection. So in the same way, what we will do is mydb is equals to get attribute. What get attribute will do is will move us to the desired db name, right? Yeah. Now let's move to the collection name. I think we have already discussed these kind of uh, functions where we are moving to a particular database and moving to a particular collections, right? In the same way we have done earlier also. So we will pass the call name, right? So now we have the collection object which have a collection in place, right? After that we have to insert the data in it. So what we will do is my call dot insert many. So insert many is used to insert multiple documents at one time. So we have another function also, so we'll pass data to it, whatever data we need to pass. So I'll show you another function which we have, so that is insert one also. So insert one, so this is the syntax to it, where we can just pass one document at a time. So we let's considering it is a generic, so let's use insert many, which can be used to load multiple data at a time, right? So here it should be mydb. So this is the insert data function which we have written. Now let's try and call the same function, right? So I'll call it in the same way. I'll write if name is equals to main, right? And it I will call db name is equals to restaurant. Not sure if it has underscore. Sorry for the spellings. So it is restaurant management. Now what we have to do is we have to prepare the data what we need to call, right? So let's say first which collection we wanted to enter the data to. Let's name it as for example customer, right? Now let's prepare the data we need to load. So I've kept the data which we need to load as pre-written, which is right. So this is the format. We'll go through what the data is and then we will insert. So what the data is, it's a list. Considering it's we are inserting many documents at a time, it's a list which has multiple dictionaries in it, right? So considering it's a JSON format, we have to keep all the attributes in the JSON format or in the key value pairs. So if we talk about the first dictionary, it has cust id. So these values are should be same as we have in our the data which we have already loaded, right? So cust id is equals to this cust id, name, address, birth date and email, right? In the same way, this is the second document. So we are trying to load these two documents in a single go, right? After that, what we will do is we'll call the function which we have created, that is insert data. We will pass the db name first, then the column name and then the data, right? So I think what we have done, these are in the same sequence: db name, call name and data. And here also we have passed db name, call name and data, right? So I think we've written whatever is required to insert the data. I'll just show you the complete code, right? And we will run it. Just right click on it, run data insertion. So it has been completed, right? Now just to check if it has been loaded or not, we'll go to our MongoDB, we'll refresh it, the GUI, go to customers and let's see if our data is loaded or not. Here, see, let's see what our data was. So data was trailer script and test@mango. Test@mongo.com and trailer swift. So this document has been added. In the same way, this is cust id, Gyan Kendra and pymongo@mongo.com. So these are Gyan Kendra and so these are the sample documents which I have inserted with the script, right? So this is another way of inserting the data to a particular collection. Now, how this is different from the data which we have inserted earlier in the bulk load was, so bulk load is a generic script which we use to load data in the bulk format from the CSV sheet, right? And it's generic in a way that we can load multiple CSV with the one script. Here, this is an data insertion.py is an interface which we are going to use in future, right? So whenever a new customer comes, we will create a dictionary out of it in this format and we will just pass it to insert data, right? So in the same way, I think why this is generic, because you can call the same function, that is insert data. You need not to rewrite the insert data again for a different DB or for a different call name. You just have to pass them here. For example, going forward, you get a new entry for restaurants. You just need to pass the DB name, call name will be restaurants, and then data which you have prepared for restaurant, you just need to pass it here. So this function will be insert your restaurants data. So this is how data insertion works in PyMongo, right? So this is what we have completed, the data insertion part. Let's move to the most important part, the complete topic of PyMongo, that is data filtration. So why this is important is that because once we have loaded the data into PyMongo DB, so we have loaded the bulk data with JSON also, with CSV also, and we have tried loading the individual row also, individual document also. So what we have done for now is discuss how to load the bulk data and how to create an application to loading. Like for example, going forward, if an individual document comes, how to load it, how to create an interface for it. So we have discussed this. Discuss the most important part, that is data filtering. And why it is important is because that is how you are going to analyze your data which you have loaded. Analysis comes one of the important part. So what I'll do is I'll create a Python file first. So Python, let's name it as, let's say, data extraction or something, right? So I'm naming it as data extraction.py, extraction.py, yeah. And let's write it as a function. Let's name it as get data, right? So you can name it anything. It's just that I'm giving this naming convention, considering we need client for this, right? So what I'll do is I'll, in the same way, I'll import the connection function. So this is the connection function, right? I'll create a client object of it. A client object is equals to con, right? Now let's try and run a function for filtration. So what we will do is, if we go to our MongoDB, we have just created a collection called rest.json where we have loaded the JSON data. And this is how the data looks. It's a restaurant data where we have like cuisines, the restaurant rating, the area code and everything, right? So let's filter it. Let's try and apply some filters on this data. So first I'll do is I'll try and write the if function, so that we can test it as in when we write it, right? So if name equal, sorry, yeah, equal to main, this we have to write in quotes. If name equal to main, and here we will, let's say db name. First we will give the db name in which we wanted to filter the data, restaurant underscore restaurant management, and then let's try writing the variable called call name. Our collection name is res.json. Make sure it is in the same case letters which you have created. So res.json, right? Now let's try and get the data, call the function which is get data. Get data, and now what I've passed is I've passed the db name here, comma collection name, right? So these variables will be used here as well. So I'll just copy them and I'll paste it here. So what we have done for now is we have created a client object. With this object, what we will do is we will try to iterate first to the database and then to the collection, right? As always, we will try to go to object to database first. So we have a function called get attribute. Get attribute, we will use the client object and then the db name, right? And from the db name, what we will do is we will go to my call, that is my collection object, and the get attribute function where we will use my db because collections are within db, right? So call name, right? So this is the collection object which we have. Now what, now let's try and filter the data, right? So first we will do is we will try to filter the simple cases, right? So what I'll do is my call, which is the collection object, dot find one. So find one is a method which is in the pymongo, which we can use with the collections, right? As a simple function, was as a simple filtration criteria. What we can do is, so make sure what find one do is find one takes two argument, right? Two argument as a dictionaries. So let's create empty dictionaries first. So the first dictionary will take the condition. So what is the condition you wanted to put in this, right? And second dictionary will take what all columns or what all attributes you wanted to return to, right? So what I'll do here is, let's say keep it as in the second dictionary, I'll pass name because we have an attribute name, rating. So why I've given one is because I need this attribute, these attributes, right? So one. So these are the two things which I need from the MongoDB, and then I'll try to print it, right? I'll just try to run it now. Okay. Monitor object has no attribute RTT monitor. Let's say where the error is. Okay, get data with call name, right? So call name is this, and then in the get data we have this db name. So this error is so we have entered a wrong method. We use get attribute here. By mistake we have written get data, so I'll just update it, right? Get attribute. I think this should run now, right? Let's try and run it. Yeah, so it is running fine. Now we can see that find one will give you any of the one document where you haven't mentioned any condition, but you have mentioned what all columns you wanted to have, right, in the output. So this is a document has a column name called name and rating one, right? So these are the type of column you will. So if you name it as 0, that will exclude it. So that is another type of filtering. So considering we will do multiple type of filtering, what I'll do is I'll try and add comments on every filter which we'll do, so that will be handy for you. So we will name it as filter based on to include fields, based on to include fields. So this is a type of filter where you just mention what all fields you wanted to exclude. Now let's go to the second filter, right? Filter based on to exclude fields, right? Now let's try the same thing. So how we write this is my call dot find one, right? Find one, and within that I think we've already discussed that what we do is we pass two curly brackets. In the first curly bracket we give the conditions, in the second curly bracket we give what to include or exclude to. So what I'll do here is I'll just copy from above the same and I'll paste it here, and now what I'll do is I'll give them as 0. So what 0 means here is you wanted to exclude them. So one with the column name means you wanted to just include the name and rating. Now you wanted to exclude it and rest of the attribute should come, right? So I'll just run it to see what we are getting. See here, what we have got is we have got a document, right, where we have got all the rest of the attributes like address, address line 2, outcode, postcode, type of food, everything, but we haven't got the name of the restaurant and the rating. So this is another type of filtering where we exclude the columns which we don't need, right? Now let's move to the second type of third type of filter, right? So this is one of the important filters because I'm giving it as conditional filter. So what I mean by conditional filter is now we will give conditions also that what should be our filtration criteria, right? Now let's try on that, right? Okay, so print my call dot find one, right? I'll just choose find one, and within find one I'll give a condition in the curly braces. So as I've already told you, the first curly braces is for the condition, and second curly braces is to give the attributes name. So now the condition I've given in the first curly braces, right? This is the first curly braces. So what I need is I need all the restaurants where the rating is equals to 5, right? I'll just run it and see if we got the restaurants. Okay, so what we got is we got 0 restaurants out of it. Why we got 0 restaurant out of it is because it is 5-1 and we don't have any restaurant. So here you can see that it is ratings and it is rating. So it should be like, we should remove this, right? So if we run this, yeah, it is running fine, and we can see that we have this restaurant with rating 5. So just to get the more clarity, I'm just commenting the print command which we have already written, so then we can see that what is the current print is returning, right? So current print should return find one with rating 5. So here we have our rating 5 restaurant with find one, right? So it is working. Now the problem is that it is returning just one restaurant, that is find one. Now what to do if we wanted to return it multiple or all the restaurants where the rating is 5, right? For that, what we have to do is we have to apply another type of filter which is equal to or not equal to, right? Now to this equal to or not equal to types, what I'll do is I'll write another way. I'll just comment the last print because we will apply the another filter now. So let's name the filter output as a result. Now result is my call, right? My call. Now my call has another method in it which is find. Now, so earlier we were using find one, now we will use find. Now how we are going to apply filter now is we will have a curly braces in it. The filter we are going to apply on rating, right? Now rating should be equal to 5. Now what is the way of applying this is, we will have another curly braces in it, and we will write, so this is a convention of PyMongo, right? We will use EQ colon 5, right? So I'll explain you how this is working. First, let's see if we can, if we get the data or not. For data in result, right? And here we will write print data, right? So what we are doing here is, we are using find method. Within that find, in the curly braces, we are giving that let's filter on the rating which is equal to 5, right? It should be EQ. So rating equal to 5. And here we are applying a loop on the data. Let's try to run, and we are printing each and every record which we are getting, right? So here you can see that we are getting all the restaurants with rating 5. See, all the restaurant rating 5, rating 5, rating 5, rating 5. Every restaurant here is rating 5. So this is another way of applying filter on the records, right? So earlier we were getting just one record. Now we were getting multiple records, or all the records where rating is 5. So in the same way, we have another attribute which is not equal to. So how not equal to works is, you have to write NE. Here you have written equal, you just have to write NE, which is not equal to, right? You can, so I am just commenting it and writing more attribute here for your help. You can use it. Attribute for not equal, right? Yeah. So now, considering now we have tested how equal and not equal to works. Now let's go to another filter, which is, we will test in a condition in a list, right? Filter in a list. So filter in a list, right? Now let's try to run it. I'll just comment it so that we can print the new data for now, right? Now for list, what I'll do is, again I'll create a new output variable which is result for me. Now my call is the collection. Collection has a method in it which is find, right? Now what I'll do is, I'll apply a filter on it which is rating first. So we are applying a filter on rating, and within rating what I'll do is, I'll use the conventions of the MongoDB. Dollar, with this should be in the quotes, right? This should be in the quotes, dollar, and it should be in. So what in will do is, in will take as an input as a list, let's give as 5 and 4. So here what it is doing is, we are finding a rating which is, it should be either in 5 or 4. So we are giving here a list of values, and it should print the result for us. Now let's print the result. So we'll just try to run it now. What we should get is, we should get all the restaurants where the rating should be 5 or rating should be 4. Okay, now let's see how the result is looking. So here you can see some restaurants with rating 5, some restaurants with rating 4. So that is, that looks how our output is correct. And why it is correct is because we have passed the list, and the filter criteria is considering all the values of the list. So earlier we were using one list which is hard coded. Now we have passed the list of values, and the attribute we have used is in, right? Okay, so considering now we have tried equal to, we have seen not equal to is also there, we have seen in. So few more attributes which you can try yourself are NIN, which is not in list, right? Not in list. Then what, few more attributes which I am telling you for your help is LT, which is less than, or you can try on GT also, which is greater than, right? So I'm just writing it here. I'm not using them, so that you can test it yourself. But so you can, what you can do is, you can go to the PyMongo documents, and you can get all these attributes available for PyMongo. So these are some of the major ones, right? Few are we have tested, few we have documented, so that when you will try it for by yourself, you will check if these are working fine or not. Now let's try another operator, which is AND operator, right? Okay, so how AND operator works for me is, result, that is a variable which we are going to use every time. I'll just comment the print section before it. right? Let's use this result now and using AND operator. So my call dot find. So find is attribute which we are using last time also we have used, which is used to filter it. Now what I'll do is, considering I am using AND operator, so there is a convention which we have is AND, so which shows that we are going to use AND here, right? Now what are the AND conditions we have is, so first we will give here and then colon and then a list. A list will have all the values, right? So here in the list we will give all the values. First I will give rating, right? So rating should be equal to 5 for me, equal to, right? So how we were using equal to is this, it should be in the quotes, $, equal, right? And it should be 5. What is the second condition which I wanted to give is, for example, let's see what all folders we have, what all columns. So let's say we have a column of type of food, right? Let's apply another filter on type of food. So I'll just give the column name type of food. In the same cases are correct. Now I will give a condition over it, right? As we have given for rating. Yeah. So it should be equal to $EQ, right? It should be equal to, let's say it should be equal to pizza, right? I'll give the pizza here, right? Let's try to run this function now. So it should give us the result of all the restaurant which serve pizza and have rating as 5, right? For data in result, print data, right? Let's try and run it. It should run. Okay, so it is not printing anything. Let's see why it is not printing anything. So pizza and rating 5. So we have at least one restaurant which has pizza as type of food and 5 as rating. So at least that should return one restaurant. Pizza is capital P here, but in code what we have written is small p. So let's change the case of pizza and let's try running the function again. Okay, so now we have got two documents, that is there are two restaurants which has rating 5 and type of food as pizza. Let's verify it. So type of food is pizza and rating is both. Now let's say if you only need the restaurant names, right? You don't need the complete document. What you have to do is, in the data which is returning, you just have to pass the column name which you need. Just try and rename it. So we got the two restaurant name, that is 109 restaurant, right? And 241 pizza. So these are the two restaurant names which provide pizza and have 5 ratings. So this is the kind of analysis which you can do once you have the data loaded in your system, right? So that is why the filtration of data is important. Now let's move towards the next and the most important part of the data filtration, that is aggregation, right? Aggregation is another important, because most of the time what you need is aggregated functions, like you need to find the max, you need to find the count of the data, where we need the aggregation of the data. So how we aggregate the data is, let's try that, right? Result is the variable. Now my call dot, so earlier we were using find. Now for aggregation, what we have to do is, we have to use a method called aggregate, and then we have to pass the strings in it. So how aggregate works is, let's say we need to count the restaurants where the rating is 4.5. Let's change the use case. We need to find it, right? So within aggregate we give the conditions, right? So the first condition is, what we need is, we have to match the values, right? So how matching the value will work is, so as always we will give everything in the curly braces. Here I'll use $ and match. So what match will do is, match will match the values where our condition is met. So what our condition is our condition is rating should be equal to, right? Equal, I think equal we have to use in the same way. Yeah, equal, and it should be equal to 4.5, let's say, right? So this is the condition we have given, that it should be 4.5. Let's check if all the curly braces are complete. Yeah, it's complete, right? Now let's give the second condition. So what is the second condition is what we need is count. So what there's another attribute which is MongoDB, which is $count, which is count will give the rows where we have 4.5 as restaurants, right? So I'll name it as total rows, right? Let's try to run this if we are getting it or not, right? So this is one of the important ways of aggregating the data within MongoDB, right? Result, and then we will print I, right? So let's see if it is working. I'll just run it. Okay, so what we have got is we have got the total rows is 7, right? To make it more readable, where rating is 4.5, right? So what are the total number of rows are? Field cannot contain, okay, right? So field cannot contain a dot operator in it. So where we have 5, right? So total rows is 5. Okay, so that this aggregation was one of the important ways of filtration of the data. So just to recap what all we have covered, so that you also get to know that what all different types of filtration are available in PyMongo, right? Client created the connection client object. Then we got the object of collection. First filtration we did is to include the fields, right? To include the fields, we just have to mention 1 with the field name and 0 where we need to exclude the field name. So this is one type of filtering. Then we have conditional filtering, and if we need one row as returned, right? So we will use find one as function and we will pass rating 5. So it will return one document where rating is 5. What if we want all the documents where rating is 5? So we will use the find function, and here we will give rating equal to 5. Equal, this is dollar, and EQ is the notation which MongoDB use for equal, right? Now next is a list. So for $any is another notation, not equal to, right? For a list you have to do is $n and pass the list attributes to it. So if you'll pass the list, it will give you all the ratings where rating is 5 and 4, right? So few more notations if we discuss. Few more notations are NIN, that is not in list, LT, less than, GT, greater than. So you can try all of these notations when you will be creating this particular script with your hand, right? So then we have AND operator where we give AND conditions. So if you wanted to pass the multiple conditions to the data for filtering, you can use this AND operator, and the first condition we use is rating is equals to 5 and type of food is pizza. Here we have given a list of conditions to it. So this is an AND operator, right? Then we have the aggregated filter, which is one of the most important filter, and how aggregated filter works is with the match operator. First, it will match the values where rating is equals to 4.5, and then it will count. So there are multiple aggregated functions available like min, max, count, and many more. So just for the scope of this video and just for the testing purpose, what I've done is I've told you how the count works, right? So if you'll run it, you will see there are 7 rows where the rating is 4.5. So you can match it with the data in the MongoDB, right? Okay, so that is we can learn on the filtration part of MongoDB. The next topic which we are going to cover is converting unstructured data to structured data. So what I mean by unstructured data to structured data is, so if we go to our MongoDB, so how the data is in MongoDB is in this format, right? So it is in the documents and the documents has JSON type of data. But if you will share this particular data in this format to someone who is layman to technology or layman to MongoDB, will not be able to understand the data or will not be able to analyze the data. So to share the data or to use the data in structured format, we have to convert it into structured format. Now, how the structured format looks like is, so let's see, this is the table icon here on the GUI. So when you click on this table type of icon, you will see the data in this format, right? So you can see the data here is in the tabular format in the rows and column format, which has been converted to structure, right? So this has been converted to structured format in this GUI, but if you wanted to share it to another application, or if you wanted to pass it to another application via any other APIs, or you wanted to extract it as CSV or a data frame. For example, if you wanted to have extract it as data frame and apply a few other calculations over it. So that is the major case comes where you wanted to convert your unstructured data to structured format using Python. So you can convert it using the GUI here by just clicking here. But what we will see is, we will see how you can do it using PyMongo or using Python, right? For the same, what I'll do is I'll create a new script, right click, new Python file. So I'll name it as data to df, right? .py. So I'm writing a Python script to convert unstructured data to structured format. So let's say the function name is data.df, and let's try and write it, right? So first, as always, we'll connect to the client. For client, we need con function. From connection, we will import con, right? And here we will create a client is equals to con, right? So con will return the client object, which we have already discussed, right? So which you can go back and see in the connections file. Now let's try to go to any database. So before going to database, we have to write how to test it, right? As we are going to test it using if name equals to, right? What I'll do here is I will pass the DB name first, which is T. Yeah, I hope the spelling is correct, right? Yeah, so we'll work on this REST JSON only. So yeah, right. Then we will write the call name. Sorry, yeah, the call name. It should be, let's say it should be this, right? res JSON, res underscore JSON, right? So what I'll do is I'll pass these to data df. I'll pass this to data df, then db name comma collection name. Here I will accept these parameter db name comma call name, right? And what I'll do is I'll create an object mydb, which will go to a particular database, right? Okay, so get attribute client will take us to a particular db name. Then we will create the collection object get attribute and mydb dot comma the call name, right? So here we have, let's change the name. So here it was parameter, and now we have created another variable called call name. Let's use call name here, right? Now what I'll do is I'll just sort the data for you, and let's extract the data, right? Let's let's name the data as, let's say, yeah, let's name it as sample only, right? So my call name, we'll use this call because this is the object, right? Let's use dot find dot sort, where here we are sorting the data, and let's say we will sort on. So if we go to the data, let's look at how the data is, right? Let's sort on, let's sort on ratings, right? Sort, and here we will give the column name on which we wanted to sort. It is rating. Now how you wanted to sort, then we have pymongo attribute pymongo dot descending, right? So we are descending the data. Now we will import pymongo first, pymongo, right? Yeah, so pymongo has an attribute pymongo dot descending, which will sort the data in the descending order as per rating. Now let's say if we need just the 10 rows out of it, right? So what we have done is call name is an object to collection, then we will use call name dot find, then we are sorting the data on the basis of rating in the descending order, and we just need 10 rows out of it, right? So our data is in sample variable. Now what we will do is we will create a data frame of it using pandas, right? So panda is another library within Python we will import that as well. Import pandas, right? So as PD, let's use the PD alias for it. So PD dot data frame, and we will pass the sample data here. So this will convert your sample data, whichever you have got from find function, to data frame, right? Let's try and print the data frame, right? Okay, I'll just run this data to df and see if we can get the data out of it. See, we have converted the data into a structured format that has ID, type of food, everything. So these columns are kind of hidden because of the PyCharm capability, where it cannot show all the rows, but it is in the structured format now. Now, for example, what we need is, we need just the restaurant names. If we extract the names out of it, it will be in the structured format. So looking at the space issue which PyCharm have, we will just get the names out of it. Now what we have is the top 10 names of restaurant we have, right? So that is what we have done here is, we have converted unstructured data to structured format, which is a table format, which is this, right? We have extracted the top 10 rows basis on the rating. So if I try to get the rating out of it, you will see they are in the order, right? So here you can see there are 2 restaurants with 6 rating, and rest of the ratings are with 5.5, 5 and 4, right? So that is how we convert the unstructured data to structured format. So just a quick recap on what we have done. We have converted here using the collection object. We have find the data and then sorted the data on the column rating in the descending order. So this is on top 10 rows, filtering the data on top 10 rows, and then converting the same sample data to data frame using pandas library. So that is pd.dataframe sample. And once you have this data frame, this is the structured data. So data frame is a structured data, which is very helpful and which is very good to use in Python using pandas. You can play around with data very easily. So that is how we are going to convert your unstructured data to structured data. Which we are going to cover is data deletion. So how data deletion will help you is to remove any of the document which is not required, or if you inserted any row by mistake, or any row which is not required. So data deletion comes into play, where you need to remove any of the documents which is not required by, or any of the wrong data, right? So for that, what I'll do is I'll create a Python file. So let's name it as data, right? And in the same way, let's follow the convention which we every time follow. Let's name it as remove. Let's name it as data removal, right? Let's name it as this. I'm writing in the same convention, and I'll keep the 2 parameters, that is tb name and collection name, right? In the same way, for the testing purpose, what I'll do is I'll write the if name equal to main, so that I can test the function which I'll create above, right? So db is equals to restaurant management, then we will use the call name, right, is equal to which collection we wanted to choose. Let's choose the same one, that is rest.json, right? Rest.json. And then what we will do is we will call the above function passing db name comma collection name, right? Let's try to write the code here. First we will import the connection function which we have written. From connection import con, right? And here we will create a client object with which is returned from this con function. Now let's create the mydb object. Mydb object is equals to get attribute from client comma db name, and then let's create a call object. Let's name it as my call is equals to get attribute, and we will pass mydb here, mydb comma collection name, right? So here we have the collection object. Let's try to work on something now. So how this works is, what we will do is, we will call this collection object my call dot, there's an attribute called delete1, where we have to pass the data in key value pair, right? So what I'll do is, I'll pass a key here and I'll pass a value here, and from where I'll be getting this is from the if clause, right? Key comma value, right? So what I'll do is, I'll pass a key here. Let's see what data we wanted to remove. Let's say the first row, if we work on the first row, let's say outcode is the key, right? outcode, right? Outcode and cf24, right? And then the key value is cf24, right? So we have written a function which is delete1, and I've passed a key value pair which says what is the key you wanted to delete and what is the value of that key. So I wanted to delete the document which is in the collection rest JSON, and where the key name is outcode and the key value is cf24, right? So let's try and run this code. So this has been completed without any error. So you can write logs as per your requirement that the deletion has been completed or not. So let's see if we have this data. So the data was CF24, where the name was 228 City Road. So I'll just refresh the data here, right? See here, you can see the particular restaurant has been deleted with CF4. So this is the next restaurant available. So this is how we delete the data from a particular MongoDB collection, right? So I think we have pretty much covered most of the topics required to work on MongoDB. So we have worked on the bulk load using CSV files, bulk load using JSON, and how to extract the data, how to insert the data, how to create new objects or collection in it. So we have covered pretty much all to start you to how to work on PyMongo using Python.